Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Expanded Showcase. Today, like I mentioned last week, I will talk to you about Palkia V-Star, a really fun, exciting, explosive deck, which kind of gets a lot better in the expanded format due to one stadium card, which I mentioned just a little bit, but obviously everyone kind of knows what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for support on the series so far. I really like how we are a small community, but a load of us still really like the expanded format, longing for its return in some sort of form here. So let's break down exactly why Palkia V-Star, I think, is a worthy contender in the expanded format. Well, you gain the stadium Skyfield, which makes it have a bench up till 8, so it can finally get over that really pesky 260 damage, which I generally think has been keeping Palkia be that really powerful archetype. Yes, in the standard format, we do have Choice Belt, which is really good to get that 290. But when they're seeing a return of EX is kind of like making in the format, so Palkia V-Star isn't getting that big one-hit KO. So having him Skyfield really does push Palkia to over that 300 damage, which I absolutely love. Really strong backup attackers. We have Starmie as V as well as Xianpao EX. Starmie V is really good for the likes of decks like Lugia and Chatterai Calyrax, which can really overflow with their energies, and this Starmie V can really punish them in that lot. Whereas Xianpao, you have access to Star Portal as well as Aqua Patch, so you can get to that big 300 plus damage really easy and generally like that. Multiple stadium card bumps with the likes of Skyfield as well as some item cards as well, and really fun items to control with the likes of Darkrai Umbreon tag team, which is really interesting, as well as the likes of some gusting effects and Girafarig, which is definitely one of these really powerful arts to control. So hopefully it's a really good sort of breakdown on exactly what Palkia is. So let's talk to you about the list, which should be doing really well in the tournaments. Let's also looking at some of the pros and cons for this. Huge thanks for a really good article which I read, which is in the link to the description below. Someone linked to me on Twitter. It was really insightful to see exactly how good Palkia V-Star really is, and they've been performing incredibly well with it over the past couple months with this deck here. So huge props to them. Thank you so much. If you want to read more about the deck, link is in the description below. And yeah, let's check out the list here. So we see a 3-3 line of Palkia V-Star, which is definitely the more sort of common build of Palkia. I really like it. Subspace as well. Doing over 300 damage now with Skyfield is really powerful as well. Because you have Muscle Band as well, you don't need to rely too much on Choice Belts, Choice Bands, stuff like that. You can instantly do that additional 20 more damage, which I think is an incredibly strong item card. Mana for EX is definitely really liking the style deck here. Any deck which pretty much says if you have an energy card attachment, you have free retreat is super good here. With the likes of Darkrai and Zero Aura GX, and even now Mana for EX, they're really powerful. Giving any free retreat is really good. Now at 120 HP, it is very weak, but it is still really powerful in that sort of case, giving that a free retreat as well. But we have some really good draw Pokemon as well. Dedenne, Crobat, and Squawkabilly are really powerful. The deck constantly wants to try and get out they set their Palkia as quick as possible, and these cards really lean into that. Lumineon V, because you can also attack with it, is a really good way to get your supporter card of choice, and can utilize the likes of Melanie to attach some energies to it. Now, I mentioned before, Darkrai Umbreon GX tag team. You're going, Charlie, what on earth is this dark Pokemon going in here? And we don't play any dark energy. Well, we're using it for a GX attack. Because we're unexpanded, we can use GX's and V-Star abilities attacks in exactly the same game here. And this is exactly to use when you go second, or if you're going second in the game here, pretty much making sure your opponent can't play any card from their hand. Really devastating sort of card here. Really slowing down the likes of Lugia, slowing down the likes of Control, slowing likes of any sort of deck here. So you can pretty much lose the entire turn, and you can just next turn as well get your setup, do your evolving, get your energies attached to it, pretty much make sure all your attacks are sort of on the board state here. And I generally think that's exactly why this card is really playing here. Girafarig as well is really powerful because you get to put some 2 cards from the opponent's discard pile into Velocitone as well, really slowing down Control, getting rid of the likes of some really destructive supporter cards, item cards as well here. So Girafarig in the active block, getting rid of multiple ones of their cards from their discard is really powerful here. As I mentioned, Starmie and Xianpao are really good secondary attackers, and obviously Xianpao has that Shivery Chill to get those water energies in the deck here, because we do play, because we have free retreat, it's really powerful as well. You can push it up, put it back in the attached energy, put it back into the bench, promote your Palkia, and bingo bang bongo, you're in a really good spot here. Another really good supporter cards as well, we have really good Ninja, really good to get some bench sniping damage, as well as obviously that draw factor, as well as Fiona as well, which is a really good gusting effect. It's basically, I believe, a single-sided escape rope on the opponent's side, but you get to put it at the bottom of your deck. Really good disruptor card as well. So not only can you disrupt your opponent, but you also kind of have that constant and loops. So never really get that big deck out. Now with supported cards, you play 2 Guzma, 2 Research, Professor Juniper, not Research anymore, 1 Ranger, 1 Raihan, an Iono, an N, and a Melanie. Now, Guzma is really good because that gets that switching card, like I mentioned, with that Shein Pow, and that gusting effect is really, really strong. Obviously, we know how powerful Research is. This is really good here. And you have the likes of Aqua Patch as well as Star Portal. So having any cards in Disco Pilot is really, really strong. Ranger makes a really good sort of effect. Go through any effect on the opponent's side, making sure that they go through all these really pesky abilities or any effects really affecting the opponent's side, making sure that these can really attack those. If there's any limitation on rule box, you can go through that. Raihan and Melanie are really good. Getting energy acceleration. Oh, sorry for that. Energy acceleration is really, really powerful from the discard pile here. Raihan getting any card you might want to have is really good, whereas Melanie you get to draw 3 cards. Really, really powerful here. And then really good destructive cards like Iono and N. Really, really powerful. I like that we have this in choice. So N's really good, sort of like in the late game sort of thing here. If your opponent has quite a big deck, you're not going to draw into that factor. But Iono is really powerful in the early game. Iono is really powerful in the late game. When you know your opponent potentially hasn't used many boss cards at all, or they know they have some cards in the hand, put it in the bottom of the deck and then they draw from the top is really good. Because and shuffle it back into the deck, which can be kind of potentially a way for them to draw back into it. Iono kind of nullifies that. So I generally like that as a factor. Item cards, for Quick Ball, for Aqua Patch. Quick Ball, really good to have it back in here, gets that discard effect, which instantly works with that Aqua Patch. VS Seeker, the card which I mentioned could be really powerful as an ace-spec card when it turn out next month. Getting any of your supported cards from Disco Pile is really powerful. It became a 4 in multiple decks here, kind of like when it was legal. Went down to a 3 when people were kind of focusing more other sort of ways, but it's always really powerful. 3 Ultra Ball, really powerful to get those evolved Pokemon like Palkia and extra discarding effector with Aqua Patch. Power Compressor as well, like I mentioned, is really, really powerful. Getting that discarding effect, as well as also getting rid of supporter cards, and you can reuse that with VS Seeker. Just truly is absolutely broken, and why it's such a powerful card. Ordinary Rod, Field Blower, and Heavy Ball are really good one-offs as well. Recovery cards, discard, getting rid of any of the stadium cards is really, really powerful. As well, obviously, Heavy Ball as well. We play a ton of one-offs. The only multiples we play of is the Palkia, so getting this Heavy Ball is really, really key in this style of matchup. Now, the ace-spec of choice is Computer Search. I like this deck. You can cut with Computer Search as well. Really powerful. Try and get your Palkia V-Star you might get, potentially get a sports card you might want to have, or just in general, it's a really good destructive item. Get any card you might want to have is really powerful. And then the tool card, like I mentioned, we play 1 Muscle Band and 2 Floatstone. Because you don't want to constantly be putting all your water energies everywhere, the fact with Manaphy EX, this can put it on the big likes of Darkrai, giving it instead of paying 2 water energies, attaching water energy, you can just attach a state item card, which is really powerful. 3 Skyfields, and rounding up the list is 8 water energies. I really like this deck here. I'm generally really excited to try out this archetype, and if there's any local expanded tournaments, this is probably a deck which I will be sleeping out because I have nearly all of these cards already, just constantly from collecting and just right now in standards. So many of these cards legal right now. So I generally really like Palkia. I think it's a really good spot. Now, if we just look at some of its strengths and weakness, it has an instant capability to get these big one-hit KOs really, really easily. Because Subspace Well, pretty much if your opponent has a bench of 5, you have a bench of 5, you're doing 260, you put that Muscle Band, you're doing that 280 damage, you have an additional 3 bench Pokemon on the bench, you're doing additional 60 damage, so all of a sudden you're doing 340 damage. Very easy to kind of get those big one-hit KOs, which is why I really like Palkia V-Star and that sort of capability. The high HP, yes, we're an expanded where people can instantly KO most things as well. Can kind of be a bit of a tricky situation, getting that 280, which kind of can be a little bit tricky in that situation as well. But having that disruptive capability going second is honestly what makes Palkia V-Star really, really powerful. Kind of if you go second, you go attack, you can't GX attack, you can't play any cards. They're like, oh shoot, I can't do anything. Right, pass to you, and then you can set up, potentially win that way. I really like that disruptive capability. But the weakness is it has a very relevant weakness. I mentioned last week, Miraidon is very, very powerful. Items are very, very powerful right now. Being weak to lightning type is really, really not exactly what you want to have right now. If you think about Palkia and Lugia, kind of one of the strongest archetypes right now in the expanded format, and they get instantly potentially KO'd by the likes of Item Lock, Vikavolt, or Miraidon, it can kind of be a bit of a tricky situation to try and get back, which is why you can potentially have the likes of Shein Pow, but they can easily KO that in response. And it is very ability focused as well. Decks play a huge amount of Path to Peak, Silent Lab, as obviously Wobbuffet right now in the action spot. You're not playing Tapu Lele to kind of go around that Wobbuffet, so you can still use its ability. So that kind of can be a bit of a tricky situation. That's the way here. So definitely you kind of can be a bit of a worry in that ability, but of how strong control is, you need to really think about what your ability you'll focus on that way, try and go around that. And that's why I really like the amount of stadium cards as well here. You play the Fiona, so you do have that Gusting option as well as a Pokemon, but you don't play like Echoing Horn or a other card as well, because people aren't going to bench like another sort of Pokemon as well, just to try and like go around that. So really interesting as well for its good strengths and weaknesses. So is it a worthy deck? I think it's a really fun, fast deck to try out. Really good, strong secondary attackers, and it can always be adapting to the meta, which I honestly think is why Palkia V-Star could potentially be a really good contender over Expanded. Obviously, as I mention every time, we do not know when the next big expanded tournament is going to be. We don't know if it's going to be some in Japan soon, or if we don't know if we're going to ever get a regionals or real sort of talk about, say, hey, expanded is returning and PTCG Live, even though it's a bit of a tricky sort of platform, has all the cards available to play with it. So I think right now, Palkia is a really good contender. If you have any local expander, if you just want to play some with friends, this is a really good one to try out. I think Palkia and Serena are definitely one of the more fun archetypes in the expander format, when the likes of Lugia and Item Block are definitely focused purely on that. I want to be disrupted really, really early. I really like Palkia, and generally think it's a really good spot in the meta because it has a really decent matchup against most things. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below what expanded deck do you want to try out. I think I'm going to do Lugia next week and talk about how exactly dominating it is. It's still doing really well in tournaments in Japan, it's still doing really well in tournaments which are being processed in Limitless, and obviously it won the last ever expanded big tournament. So I hope you are excited for that video coming out next week. If you do, obviously, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.